Somewhere around 5,000 years before anyone invented the concept of a cough, a group of people in the Americas looked at a weed, set it on fire, and decided to breathe the smoke on purpose. That plant would go on to fund empires, start wars, addict billions, and eventually get slapped with a warning label longer than most legal contracts. Before we get into how a sacred ceremonial herb became a $900 billion industry built on the slow-motion combustion of your lungs, hit subscribe, because Traceback is where we follow humanity's worst ideas, from their humble beginnings, all the way to their inevitable, ridiculous conclusions. Tobacco starts, like most things that eventually ruin us, with good intentions. Indigenous peoples of the Americas were cultivating it as far back as 5000 BCE, and by the time you get to cultures like the Maya, it wasn't a vice, it was medicine, ritual, diplomacy, and religion rolled into one plant. Maya priests smoked it in ceremonies. Healers used it to treat everything from asthma to snakebite, which, to be clear, did not work. But confidence has always been half the battle in medicine. Tobacco was chewed, smoked, snorted, even used in enemas, because apparently no orifice was safe from humanity's need to get a nicotine buzz. Peace pipes, the calumet, became a genuine diplomatic tool among North American nations. You smoked with someone, you weren't going to stab them 5 minutes later. Tobacco was less a habit than a handshake. Then, in 1492, Christopher Columbus showed up, and in between claiming land that already belonged to someone else, his crew was handed dried tobacco leaves as a gift. They had no idea what to do with it, so naturally they threw most of it away. A genuinely historic missed opportunity to just leave it alone forever. But a few sailors picked up the smoking habit, and by the time they sailed home, Europe had its first taste. It spread the way anything spreads when nobody understands the consequences yet. Fast and with enthusiasm. Physicians in the 1500s prescribed tobacco for headaches, bad breath, and cancer. Yes, they thought it cured cancer. Which is the kind of historical irony that writes itself. Jean Nicot, a French diplomat, was so enthusiastic about tobacco's supposed healing powers that he got the plant's genus named after him, Nicotiana. Congratulations, Jean. You got immortalized for popularizing an addictive stimulant. Somewhere, a marketing department is taking notes. By the 1600s, tobacco wasn't just a curiosity. It was the plant that saved English colonization. Jamestown, the first permanent English colony in North America, was one bad harvest away from total collapse, until a settler named John Rolfe figured out how to cultivate a sweeter Caribbean tobacco strain in Virginia soil. That crop turned a failing outpost into a profitable one almost overnight. And profitable in the 1600s meant one specific horrifying thing: forced labor. Tobacco is brutally labor-intensive, and the massive demand for cheap hands to grow it became one of the direct economic engines behind the transatlantic slave trade in the American colonies. This is the part of the story where the plant stops being quaint. An herb that indigenous cultures once used to seal peace between nations became, within a century, one of the commodities financing one of history's greatest atrocities. Evolution isn't always upward. Fast forward to the 1800s, and tobacco is still mostly a hand-rolled, artisanal sort of misery. Cigars for the wealthy, chewing tobacco for everyone else. Snuff for people who wanted their nicotine with a side of sneezing. Smoking a cigarette required actually rolling it yourself, which put a natural speed limit on how much damage you could do to yourself per hour. That speed limit got obliterated in 1881. When James Bonsack patented a cigarette rolling machine that could produce over 200 cigarettes a minute, a single machine doing the work of dozens of rollers. This is where tobacco stops being a plant and starts being an industry in the modern sense. Prices collapsed, availability exploded, and companies like James Buchanan Duke's American Tobacco Company built an empire on turning what used to be a slow, deliberate ritual into a cheap, disposable, endlessly repeatable habit. Mass production had arrived, and mass addiction arrived right behind it. Then came the golden age of tobacco marketing, which is really just the golden age of lying to the public with a straight face and excellent production values. In the early 1900s, doctors, actual physicians in actual white coats, appeared in cigarette ads. More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette, one campaign claimed, which is a sentence that should be studied in every advertising ethics class that has ever existed or should exist. Cigarettes were marketed as soothing for the throat, good for digestion, even useful for weight loss. Smoke instead of snacking, several ads suggested, because nothing says healthy lifestyle like replacing food with a burning stick of dried leaves. World War I and World War II turned cigarettes into practically standard military issue. Rations included them, and an entire generation came home chemically hooked, having been told smoking calmed the nerves during combat. It did calm the nerves. It also did several other things nobody was advertising yet. The other things started becoming impossible to ignore by the 1950s. Studies linking smoking to lung cancer began piling up, and the tobacco industry's response was not to stop selling cigarettes. It was to fund its own research, designed specifically to manufacture doubt about the research that already existed. This wasn't incompetence. Internal documents later revealed that companies understood the health risks decades before the public did, and chose profit over disclosure with an almost impressive level of organizational commitment. It took until 1964 for the U.S. Surgeon General to formally declare smoking a cause of lung cancer, and even then, the industry fought regulation for decades, using the same playbook: fund friendly science, cast doubt, delay, repeat. That other industries would later borrow wholesale for their own inconvenient truths. Warning labels arrived in 1965. Cigarette TV ads were banned in the U.S. by 1971. The empire built on 200 cigarettes a minute efficiency was now fighting to survive its own success. And it did survive, because addiction is an extremely reliable business model. Even as smoking rates fell in wealthier countries through the late 20th century, tobacco companies simply expanded into markets with looser regulations, keeping the machine running on a global scale. Then, in the 2000s, the plant found a new form entirely: the e-cigarette. Vaping was marketed as the responsible evolution: no tar, no combustion, a harm reduction tool to help smokers quit. What actually happened was a flavored, discreet, teenager-friendly delivery system for the same nicotine that's been the point of this entire 5,000-year story all along. Juul turned vaping into a billion-dollar company almost overnight and, in the process, created a nicotine addiction crisis among teenagers who had never smoked a single traditional cigarette. The plant changed forms one more time, and the story rhymed anyway. So here's tobacco's full arc: a ceremonial plant used to seal peace between nations, turned into the economic backbone of a colony, turned into the financial engine behind chattel slavery, turned into a mechanized mass production industry, turned into a decades-long public health cover-up, and finally repackaged as a sleek device you charge with a USB cable. Every leap forward in how efficiently we could deliver nicotine to a human bloodstream was celebrated as progress at the time. That's the pattern worth sitting with. Humanity didn't set out to build one of the deadliest consumer products in history. It just kept optimizing a peace pipe, one invention at a time, until optimization became the whole problem. If you want to see where humanity's next great idea ends up going sideways, subscribe to Traceback. We're just getting started tracing this stuff back to where it went wrong.